The next item on our list is to use encrypted passwords. I don't think we have to get into a detailed discussion as to why we want to use encrypted passwords, but think about it this way. In the running config, if you don't use encrypted passwords, everything is in plain text, meaning if your running config gets captured, what happens? That malicious user has all the passwords and all the usernames and everything that they need. So it's important that we take the time to implement those encrypted passwords. For example, the enable password is not encrypted by default. We have to use enable secret if we want that password to use type 4 encryption and to be hashed inside of our running config. Line passwords are in plain text. So if we want to protect those line passwords and encrypt them with type 7 encryption, we can use the service password encryption command. The console password is a line password as well. That would be stored in clear text, so service password encryption would be necessary there as well. When setting up usernames and passwords, if you use the username password command, that password is stored in plain text. If you want to protect that password, you use service password encryption. But you should be using SHA-256 for those usernames and passwords by using the username secret command instead of the username and password command. So we can see some examples here. Enable secret Cisco, that's a recommended, enable secret, that's a recommended practice, best practice, and they use the password Cisco admin with a 5 in there and some capital letters and some lowercase letters. And they did the same thing down here for the line console 0, line VTY04. However, since secret was used here, you can see that it's type 4 encryption, it's been hashed, and because of service password encryption, these two passwords here are now using type 7 encryption, and they have been encrypted. Let's look at an example of how we can protect our passwords. On R3, when I hit enter, we're in user exec mode. I type in enable, we're in privilege exec mode. At no point in time has it asked me for a password at all. So we want to make sure that we set up a password for this movement from user exec mode to privilege exec mode, because I just went from having guest level access or very little access to the various commands on the device to having full access to the device, full privilege levels. Configure terminal. I'm going to type in enable password Cisco. So I just created an enable password and called it Cisco. If we look at the running config, do show run pipe to include enable, we can see that the enable password is stored in plain text. It's clear as bell. It says right there, Cisco. Let's take a look now what happens when we use enable secret Cisco. So when I type in enable secret Cisco, I am now using type 4 encryption, which is going to use a SHA-256 algorithm to hash this particular password. Notice what it says. Your enable secret password is the same as your enable password, which is not recommended because, well, let's take a look at the running config. Do show run pipe to include enable. If I'm a hacker and all of a sudden I captured your enable password, I see it's Cisco, I'm going to try Cisco, right? I'm going to try Cisco because maybe you did not follow this recommendation. In reality, you should not even have an enable password anyways. Don't even have the enable password. That way there you don't have to worry about this issue at all. And the enable secret always applies. Even if you configure both, though, the enable secret applies. It overrides the enable password, but there's no need to have a password configured if it's not going to be used at all. So get rid of it. Don't even have it there. But as you can see, we're using type 4 encryption here, and we have the hashed string, the hashed using SHA-256 characters that we have there. Let's create a line password. A line password. So we'll type in configure line VTY 0 through 4, and now we'll type in password, and the password is going to be Cisco again, as an example. Let's look at the output of our running config, and when we look at the output of the running config, let's also include, we'll just look at begin line. So when we look at the VTY line, we'll see that it says password Cisco. So in this particular case, again, it's stored in plain text, just like our enable password. Let's create a user. In this case, username, Cisco, password is going to be Cisco as well. If we look at the output of the running config, we'll see, pipe to include username, we'll see that their password is stored in plain text in the running config as well. So if you want to protect all of these plain text passwords, you can use the command service password encryption. And this is encrypt all the current passwords and future passwords inside the running configuration. So if we go back now and we look at show run for the username, we can see that the password is now encrypted with type 7 encryption. If we look at the output of the running config and focus specifically on line VTY configuration mode, we can see that it's encrypted with type 7 encryption. And if we look at the output of the enable command, enable password, it is also encrypted now. However, we do want to consider the fact that when it came to the username, we have a better option than password. For example, we can create a user called admin, and what we can do is we can say secret. Ooh, secret. What is the secret in this case? The secret is going to be their password. So let's say Cisco. And now if we take a look at the running config, we can see that for admin, they actually used type 4 encryption, which utilizes SHA-256, and there is the hash that was generated from that process. So much safer, much more secure if you take the time to use type 4 encryption for your passwords, where it allows you to use that type 4 encryption.